So now you just shut it off now because it's gonna get all messed up. But you're live.
Close it.
Yep. So you're live now.
Okay. All
Good.
right. Yes, thank you. Okay, so where are we? So did Vice Chair Pacheco join us?
I haven't heard it yet.
Okay. I have someone waiting. That's Kathy. Okay, so there's 13 of us. All right, so I don't know, it's 6:39 and I don't see anyone waiting. So it's your call, Chairperson.
Can you confirm we are recording and are we live on YouTube?
We are live on YouTube and I have that over here on a separate monitor.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
We're ready for you.
All right. Good evening. I'm calling to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning and Preservation Committee of the City of San Fernando on July 13th. Michelle, would you please read the roll call? I'm sorry.
Okay. So good evening, chairpersons and members of the commission. This is a roll call for the Planning and Preservation Commission meeting of July 13, 2020. Chairperson Alvin Durham.
Here.
Vice Chair Hector Pacheco. Commissioner Ivan Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Aida Montes.
Here.
And Commissioner Marvin Perez. No. So let the record reflect that as of 6:40 p.m., we have absent Vice Chair Pacheco, Commissioner Marvin Perez, and Commissioner Marvin Perez. And no one is waiting in the room.
And we have the, if you have a flag available, yeah, find it. If you don't, look at mine. Pledge of allegiance, please. Oh, God. Already begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. I'm preaching today, you know. At this point, I'd love an approval of the agenda.
I second.
Aida, was that a first on your behalf?
Yeah,
Yes,
I approve. I also approve.
Okay, so you approve it. Aida, you second?
yes,
All right, so for the record, that was moved by Commissioner Gonzalez, second by Commissioner Montes, and Chairperson Alvin Durham.
Yes.
Great. So vote of yes for 3 yes and 2 absent.
At this point, we open the floor for public statements for anything that's not on the agenda this evening. Anyone wishing to do so, please notify us if you want to talk.
As of 6:30 this afternoon, there were no emails received, and there are no comments on YouTube at the present time either.
In that case, I will close public hearing and get on with the consent calendar. For which I would love to have a motion to approve.
A motion? I motion to approve the minutes of the June 18, 2020 Planning and Preservation Commission meeting.
And a second. Ida, would you second that?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I do second that.
Motion's been made to approve the consent calendar. Anybody object? Hearing no objections, motion is approved. We'll get on then to get no continuous or new business. I believe that means I don't know, Tim or Gerald.
I'll handle this one. Thank you, Chair Durham and honorable commissioners. The item we have before you tonight, really excited about, and as you can see on the Zoom, we've got a number of members of the project team for a project that's sorely been needed in our community, and we're fortunate enough last year to receive a grant from SCAG, the regional planning agency, to address parking within our city. Namely to develop a citywide parking management master plan. We went through a request for proposals process and received proposals from the universe of project professionals and experts in this field. We interviewed 4 firms, and out of that, the cream of the crop rose to the top. And the project team is here with us tonight to give you an overview. The project lead team is led by Brian from KOA. Also represented, we have Kathy and Thelma from Catherine Padilla Associates, as well as Janice Rhodes from JR Consultants. Really happy to have this team together. And they're going to walk through what the study is about, what the time frame is, what the type of work is, and it is data intensive and community input intensive. So over the last couple months now, it has been a challenge to get meaningful data, which was, when we first envisioned this, would have been one of the first steps. But because of the impacts of COVID-19, normal sort of business activity and economic activity, school activity, just hasn't happened since we started this project. And therefore, one of the other major goals is community input. So we're really focused on that over the last, say, 60 days or so. And really excited to talk about what we've done so far and what lies ahead, and really what our objective here today is. One, to share this information with the Planning Commission, but more importantly, to get your feedback. So this is not the only time, but definitely an important milestone in getting a direct feedback. No comment is too small. No concern is too location specific. This is definitely the opportunity to provide that feedback. So at this time, I will pass it to Brian from KOA, and I believe he will be sharing his screen. If he has the ability to bring that up at this time.
He's asking that he's enabled, please. If you can enable
yes.
the sharing for him.
Still says disabled. Is it enabled now? The
All
screen,
right.
the screen share tool.
Brian, you want to try it now, please?
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Tim and commissioners for having us tonight. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview presentation here. Switch to the
There you
presentation.
go.
Should see a full screen slide. Is that working?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry you're not seeing my face. I'm not trying to hide, but just having some sort of webcam issue after installing a different webcam at the office today. So sorry. But yes, thanks for having us. One of the things we've done is started a branding for this project. So you see here that we've shown, you know, commercial, neighborhood, residential, kind of everything working together. The parking's working great. The businesses are thriving. That's some of the goals of this study. So that's been integrated into the branding for this project. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to our team a little bit more, so you know who we are, what we're doing. Talk about our scope of work. Talk about our study area. Talk about some details of that, how we're doing outreach to the community and stakeholders, and take your questions and have some discussion at the end. So these are our 4 team members. You've been introduced. I'm with KOA. We're in Monterey Park. We are engineers and planners focusing on transportation. We have a lot of strong data analysis skills, solutions for parking, mapping, things of that. And we have engineers on staff that can help us gauge whether things fit in a street level. So we have that total capability. JR Parking Consultants, you were introduced to Janice earlier, providing parking management and pricing tasks. Parking management can be anything from changing the time limits on the street or in a parking lot to regulating who can park in certain areas, and other tools as well. Pricing is obviously just paying for parking. It's not a assumed solution that that's going to be something we're going to implement, but some of the tools at the end, you know, after outreach, after we're all in agreement on what the best steps forward are, there could be some expansions or changes to pay parking lots. There's one in the Civic Center now. There could be an expansion of pricing on street parking just to help things turn over faster, make it better for customers, put employees in the proper places so that customers can park. That's one potential solution, but there's many other. That's just some solutions, examples of solutions that they'll be working on. Catherine Padilla and Associates, you're introduced to Catherine and Thelma earlier. They'll be doing our business group outreach, public outreach for our workshops and our stakeholders, making sure communications is consistent and making sure the message is clear and everyone understands what's going on as we move forward. We have a lot of data to collect over a week period. We have a data collection firm that's going to help us staff that survey to do all the on-street surveys and the parking lot surveys, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well coming up. So our experience across dozens of jurisdictions, Long Beach, Seal Beach, El Segundo, and Tustin are some of the recent local cities that we've worked for. We've also worked in the San Fernando Valley and also in San Fernando. We're going to be doing a lot of mapping of our data, both of existing conditions, what we find, but also of comments, issues. They're also going to be mapped so that we can kind of match the collected data to issues that people see, businesses, residents, institutions, schools. We're going to map all the issues that we see so that we can get a good picture of what's going on and what potential tools can be implemented to improve parking conditions where that's possible. As a team, we're experienced in parking planning, management, pricing, public outreach. We're going to work together as one team to do this. We understand local neighborhood issues. We worked in a lot of local communities, especially where there's kind of a play between commercial districts and residential districts. One demand kind of affecting adjacent neighborhoods. We'll have a lot of issues probably to deal with in that way. But we understand political sensitivities, how to do a proper parking analysis. We understand the vested interest of business. We understand how residents feel about parking in front of their house, and how that can be affected by by various other uses or just density in a residential neighborhood. But we also did outreach in the area for the Metro project, the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail project, the planned rail project between Van Nuys and San Fernando and Sylmar. We recently did first last mile planning for San Fernando, both at the Civic Center Hubbard station, Civic Center station, then up at Hubbard at the Metrolink station. But we did work within the city to look at pedestrian bicycle routes to and from those stations and look at access when that station is developed. So we worked in San Fernando very recently. So some of the project goals, what we're doing today in engaging you, decision makers, as the commission in providing some initial input into our study. So we're engaging community members. We'll have a couple of workshops later on as we get further along. Right now we're forming stakeholder groups, focusing on residential area and then focusing on commercial areas to kind of get those specific issues kind of in one meeting. Everyone kind of has a shared interest if we divide it that way. This is a goal of the study to stimulate the local economy. It's not a COVID-19 restriction goal. This was a goal made much before the current restrictions we have, and very recently today new restrictions came on. But for the long term, there's the goal of stimulating local economies, getting the commercial districts to work well, parking and land use together, working as a system. Applying the findings from a couple years back, you completed the specific plan, all the downtown major streets plus the Maclay corridor north-south. We're gonna include findings from that to help educate the study. Transit-oriented development is something we'll have to deal with as part of the study, both the benefits of that station coming into the Civic Center area and the surrounding communities, but also the potential effects of that if there's potential overflow from that demand during peak times. That could be something we have to deal with too. So we have to deal with both sides of that transit project. That's going to be something that will be discussed. So if you improve parking on one street, you might push vehicles off to the next street, then you got another problem and you have to deal with it again. So there's going to be a lot of neighborhood issues that we're going to deal with kind of on a neighborhood basis as a area. And then commercial districts, we'll deal with that in terms of a district. We also need to look at the city as a whole in terms of how those changes could affect the city as a whole and how overall policy needs to change to support any solutions that we put into effect. We'll also look at the impacts of those solutions along with the benefits. So how are we going to do this? We're going to talk about this here. We're going to collect data for 2 weekday periods, likely an afternoon and an evening period, and then again on the weekend. There's been a lot of comments about how Sunday has a special demand in some areas based on churches and church activities. So we're probably going to do 2 weekend periods, a Saturday and a Sunday at the appropriate times. This will be kind of a snapshot of each of those periods. We don't have the ability necessarily to collect data on an hourly basis, which sometimes is done for parking studies, but it'll be a snapshot to be able to let us focus and get the data collection done in a reasonable amount of time. But we're going to cover all the on-street parking segments. That's basically whenever you park by the curb or in diagonal spaces downtown or in some other areas of town, the commercial districts. We're going to survey all of those for what % of spaces are full, and look at the same for public parking lots. And in major corridors of the city, we're also going to look at the off-street commercial parking lots to see, is there an issue on the street, but it's also caused by parking overflow from a commercial property. We're going to look at that kind of issue as well. So it's all within a 1 week period. We're going to get those 4 time periods done for all the parking within the city within that study area. So we're going to take that data, look at trends, patterns, conglomerate data into neighborhoods to see what kind of makes sense. How are things working together? But also look at the city as a whole. And we'll have graphics that also show lot by lot, street by street, so that we can look at that together as we get into the outreach phase. Later, we'll get into management and pricing recommendations. we'll provide our recommendations, potential toolbox, but then listen to you as decision makers, listen to the public, and find out what's best for each area of the city. So in doing that, we'll have 2 community workshops, which will be open to the public. One will be kind of after we complete our outreach, after we do the surveys, and then we'll convene, get our kind of recommendations together, and then at the end there'll be a second community workshop to kind of fine tune everything. So the project management parking plan will be presented in the end to the Transportation Safety Commission and the City Council in draft and final form to get final approval. So that's our total course of work as we go. So this is our study area. You know your city boundaries. So that's basically our study area. All the on-street areas within the city, plus these darker corridors that are major. These are collectors and arterials and transportation terms where there's major commercial uses. We've identified all of these commercial uses and we've mapped out the parking supply at these locations. Those will be included in the survey along with all the street surveys, and the parking lots, the public parking lots downtown will be included as well. That's not on this map, but those will be included as part of the survey. So our current tentative schedule, we don't have the ability to collect parking demand data now because there's not really normal conditions. We don't know when normal conditions will be restored, but we want to get to a point where there's pretty basic functions have returned, and we can see that play between institutional, commercial, residential demand, and be able to see those issues in the data as we go through it. So our current plan is September, based on the current state restrictions that came down today. That's looking a little more iffy, but we figure by fall or late fall we'll have some uses that are kind of back up and operating in normal conditions and generating parking demand. After that, we'll get into special district requirements, getting into parking management and pricing potential tools, the draft PMMP report, and then the final in the late winter and spring months of 2021. So that's our current plan schedule for the project. And then, yeah, we'll update the schedule as we go, especially after we do our first round of stakeholder outreach, which is within the next month. Catherine now will talk about our outreach process, and then we'll get into some questions at the end.
Hi, everyone. So I'd like to drill down a little bit more. I think Brian's explained how important it is for us to look at this study system-wide so that we don't solve a problem and then create another one. So the part that I get to do, along with my other teammates, is to collect input from the community, and that will inform most of the, it'll inform the whole study overall. When we began with briefings to the commissions, we also did presentations. The same presentation we're providing for you, we also provided for the neighborhood watch groups and the business watch group and the education and planning education commission as well. And then in July, we will be holding stakeholder interviews. And what that is small group discussions to focus more on issues and concerns that are occurring, and even begin exploring what people think could be potential solutions. And we'll be holding those in July. And we've been recruiting through the presentations that we've given, and it's been very effective. We've had a great response. Then we'll have a community meeting and we'll present the parking management master plan goals, utilization results based on Brian's analysis, and the issues and possible solutions. Then we'll continue, we'll do like a feedback loop, collect that input that we learned there. And on the next slide, we'll continue with our next round of stakeholder interviews. And again, that's going back through, visualize these little feedback loops where we collect and then check sort of the findings. Is this accurate? Does it sound like preliminary solutions that would be effective? we will then have a survey, an online questionnaire, and that can be spread as widely as we need to do. And especially, we're going to ask for help on collecting input from not just the residents, but apartment dwellers as well. So, and from that, we'll develop solutions. We'll have another round of commission briefings in February 2021, assuming we stay on the schedule. And then we'll hold a final community meeting in February. And at that point, we should have some preliminary, well, pretty much refined recommendations and findings that we'll present to everyone and get hopefully blessing from everyone. So we'd like to take this time to answer any questions that we can for you, either about the technical approach, the overall process, or community engagement. And we also have a call to action for you where we ask for your help. So I'm opening it up for questions.
On their way up. Folks, do you understand what?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I just want to make sure that everybody understands what you're trying to find us, get us to ask.
Well,
and I think it's been pretty clear that your outline there is very good. I know for me personally, this has been a long time desire because I've been a long time resident, and I'm going to be very interested in especially the residential area. Because on the 4th of July, I had some big dum-dum parked his 4x4, taking up both of my spots in front of my house all day. I wasn't really happy about that.
In fact, let me make it clear, we're also asking you, let's take this time if you would like to tell us what issues and concerns come to mind. We're taking notes. And I just want to introduce Thelma. She's also my senior project manager working on this. And she's also the person who developed the beautiful graphics for this, the branding. She's a talented graphic designer too.
And we will also give you an opportunity to, give us comments as you kind of think about this and let it stew in your minds after we've downloaded this presentation to you. But yeah, any issues that you see in the residential areas where you live, in the commercial areas where you shop in the city, sometimes industrial uses have their own special influences on parking demand, institutional. We want to kind of know what you see as issues we should be looking for, specific streets, neighborhoods, but then also what kind of tools do you think might improve those conditions, but we'll get more into that later in the process. So if you have anything to offer now, we'll take that, but that's kind of the framing for what we might want tonight if you have any comments.
Chair Durham,
I
you'll likely go commissioner by commissioner and seek some input, and then as we get a dialogue going, we can just kind of have it flow freely. I did want to note that Commissioner Marvin Perez did join us at approximately 6:50, so I believe you caught almost all of the presentation, but just any information if there's any outstanding questions that you think we can answer before we jump into sort of Q&A, feel free. We're happy to available to answer any questions you have.
No, if I can have a copy of the PowerPoint, that'll be great, so I can go back and look at it. But I do have some questions, but we'll go one by one, however you want it.
If you got some questions now, I think it would be appropriate then, wouldn't it?
Okay, I guess my first question or comment is on the community involvement. I know this, you mentioned the surveys. So is that going to be a mailed survey to every single address in San Fernando, or how is that going to be tallied or taken?
We had intended to be an online survey. So that means that people can click on, and by the way, it'll be very straightforward where they can go to one, it'll be one click on their phone or on a laptop or computer. So it's not like anyone has to download any equipment to watch a community meeting or participate or provide their input. They can send their comments anytime with this one click web page we're going to put up very soon. I should let you know there's a web page that will be up as well. And people can access it from their phones as well.
Right. Well, the reason why I'm asking is I know we have a large population of elderly people who I'm not sure are certainly savvy with the computer and online access and all of that. So I just want to make sure that everyone gets a say on this, since it's affecting every single community member.
Okay.
Thank you. I know Tim has brought this up as well about, and we'll come up with other methodologies to collect input for people that are not computer savvy.
Probably phone or something like that.
But thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll expand on that because that's always, you know, a concern anytime we want to get input. We want to get everyone's input that has input to provide us. So, you know, the online survey is something that, you know, the consultant team has had a lot of success with in other studies, in other areas. For us, it's really about direct outreach as well as awareness. So we're discussing items such as, it may be online, but you may see advertisements in the local newspaper that are making you aware that this survey exists. So you're not just relying, say, on seeing an internet, seeing the city website or getting an email. So you'll get this information, you know, in hard copy as well. And then the opportunity to also provide this information as direct mail to residents, to households, either through water bill or things of that nature. All the things we're looking at. It's always been our intent as well. You know, we put this together pre-coronavirus, but to have direct engagement with the senior club. You know, they're not having necessarily Zoom meetings that we can attend right now, but that has always been the intent as well, is to get that direct feedback.
Let me just let you know too, for people that prefer just making a phone call, they can do that also and provide their comments.
Perfect. I do have another question. I don't know if it was addressed earlier or not, but it's part of the survey and whole study process looking at overnight parking as opposed to traffic and parking during the day necessarily, or how has it been divided?
Yeah, so we've targeted the surveys to be 2 weekday periods. You know, we'll set like a number of hours, and we're gonna try to get all that data collected for that time period over the week. And then there'll be a evening period where we're gonna target a survey sweep during that week, and then the Saturday and Sunday times. We do want one of the survey times to be a weekday, midday, lunchtime, business activity, that kind of thing. And then in the evening, we can make it fairly late after most people come home from work. And then you get kind of that overnight parking feel. There are some people that, you know, move their cars late at night and then put them on the street from residential areas after they clear out their driveways. But we can kind of customize that to get a snapshot of what's happening overnight, but we won't have the ability to do every hour of the day.
Got it. Yeah, the reason why I asked that is, at least where I live on 8th Street, we do have, I'm really close to Silmar. So there's quite a lot of apartments across the street. So I know that during the day it seems very empty and fine. And then somewhere around 8 p.m. or so, we have an overflow of cars just parked overnight,
Right.
not necessarily from the local community. And sometimes it's hard to see who's around or whose car that is in case of anything.
Sure.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, our intent is to get that peak residential demand, which does start, yeah, like mid-evening. So we're going to tailor the weekday evening surveys to cover that and get a snapshot of that.
Okay, perfect.
Commissioner Perez, and for the rest of the commission, if you have specific intersections that you'd like to highlight that the project team can look at, this is a perfect opportunity to share that information. And trust me, the other commissions, when we spoke with Neighborhood Watch, when we spoke with business watch groups, they were not shy about calling out specific locations. So don't feel shy either.
Sure.
Sounds great. And then again, I don't know if this was covered, but just so it's just a question I have, is the idea of like permit parking out there, meaning assigning, like Santa Monica, for example, has assigned parking permits for residents to park cars outside during certain times. If not, there's like a citation or a process for that. Is that part of this project?
Yeah, that'll be a potential tool to be discussed. And it is really one of the primary tools for a residential area, because you want to control that demand that goes onto the street and try to get people to use their driveways and their garages if they're available as much as possible. And that's the goal primarily of a parking permit program. Sometimes there's safety concerns of having cars on the street, but it's primarily to control parking demand. So that is something we would discuss. There's costs involved with either annual fees or monthly fees to fund the program partially by residents. There's also issues of just accounting for that and how many cars are allowed per household, that kind of thing. So there's some complexities involved, but it's up for discussion. We're just not offering it outright because it becomes kind of a charged. There's a lot of politics behind it, but it's definitely going to be something that's got to be discussed. And if that ends up being a solution, there'll be certain neighborhoods that maybe there's recommendations for those neighborhoods to enter into those districts. But I believe there's also a vote that has to take place to implement that. So it'll be part of the solution, and some of the framework will be established by the study.
Perfect. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. As you can see, there'll be lots of other opportunities for people to participate. And we're asking if we could, if the commission can please help by letting the community know the parking study is underway. And when we have community meetings, we're going to reach out to everyone, but we're going to ask you to also let your friends, your neighbors, your family members know that we would like them to participate either in one of the different forums that we're going to use. So we're asking for your help with that. And if you have any comments or questions that come to mind after we've talked here, or anything that you want to point out, hey, please look at this issue here, send me an email and I'll make sure that it goes all to the project team. And it's kpadilla@katherinepadilla.com. And we welcome any and all comments.
Okay, Ivan, you got anything to add?
I have a question for Timothy, for myself. Is this survey project going to be funded somehow by that parking fee that we had last meeting? If you recall, I had a question about that Citibank and that parking fee that sits into a bucket, that money. Is this part of that bucket or is not related?
Not related. So this, the city applied for a grant through SCAG, the Regional Planning Group, and we won that grant. We received that grant. So with that, we were able to hire through SCAG the project consulting team that you have here before us.
Got it. Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Okay, Ivan, any questions?
Negative, no. I'm curious to see the study.
Okay. Aida? No. Okay. When we had the walk around several months ago, did we provide enough useful areas to look at? I know for one, I was concerned about we gave away too much turf for the parking area for the stupid courthouse. We could have double decked and done a better job of it.
Was that as part of the Metro project?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had it's a fairly well attended walk around. I mean, we did a good job. We walked all around the area that's going to be there by the station, and hopefully we got some good input from people that were doing walk around.
Yeah, we'll look over those notes. That was for station access,
right,
pedestrian routes and things. But yeah, that'll play into some issues that we're gonna deal with here, especially with the station coming in, just overall effects of the station. So yeah, we'll do a review of that and make sure we recalling all the comments from that.
Yeah, good.
And the routes that you walked.
Yeah, because some of the things was what can Metro do with their, I don't know, powers or whatever, to change things that need to be changed on it. And that, I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but anyway, enough. I'm done.
That was the first
Thank
last
you.
mile walk audit, and
Right.
I do recall
Right.
your participation. Thank you very much. And we do have a lot of comments from that Brian certainly has access to.
Good. Well, I think that covers the group of us. Anybody else have questions you want to ask of the presenter?
Yeah, I have a question for Kathy, if I may. You mentioned that you will like our help in, going out there to the community and letting them know that this is going on. Is there like a specific flyer or anything printout that will be provided so that we can hand out something to our neighbors or people around us?
We will have flyers developed, and we will be able to provide you copies, yes.
Okay.
We don't have any dates yet.
Yeah, I think Tim said use the water bill as well.
If I could, before we move on from this item, I would ask, it might be beneficial for the commission if the project team could speak a little briefly on regional trends, national trends that they're seeing as it relates to planning requirements, parking requirements, things of that nature that ultimately planning commissions help determine for local cities, and just what the trends are you're seeing as it relates to those items that can be under the domain of a planning commission.
That's for you, Brian.
I was waiting to hear from any planners on the commission. Yeah, so I mean, some of the trends are going toward pricing, in terms of but making it easier, having a pay station available rather than parking meters. You have to get coins out. You can use a card. You can do things with your mobile phone. Again, these are getting into high-tech solutions, and not everyone wants to have that. But those are some of the solutions coming on board. Some of the more high-tech things are, automated parking structures when there's not room for the parking supply. But that's when you have the economics for it, and you're actually running out of land. But I think San Fernando will be able to accommodate the parking supply in the future with management of on-street and off-street parking areas. Wayfinding to parking is getting better with, again, technology with mobile apps, guiding people to the right places. in terms of code requirements, cities are implementing in certain districts, excuse me, implementing reduced parking requirements for land uses if it's known that transit's going to be a really prominent solution for those land uses. That can create potential overflow if it ends up those people don't take transit, but that could be a solution within the station area. And that'll help promote development around there by kind of reducing costs of development, since parking spaces are at least $10,000 a space, going up to, you know, whatever it is, 50 to 60,000 for a parking structure. Those types of kind of allowances can promote development and provide for better economics around the station for better development. Did you want to add anything to that, Janice, and trends, parking solutions? If Janice is here.
I'm here. Let me get unmuted. To add to what Brian is talking about, we are seeing a lot more technology uses to manage curb face, to manage the flow of traffic so that we don't have the continual searching for parking spaces. And we're
Right.
seeing technology being used to advise and even in some cases reserve parking spaces before a parker even arrives at a parking space. We are seeing a move from using hard hang tags or bumper stickers or other permits being displayed to now using electronic permitting processes. Some of you spoke earlier about or asked the question about residential permit parking. We now can do that without that cumbersome overhead issuance and management of hard permits. We can do it electronically. So that it is an age of technology being used to manage traffic and parking in a way that even 5 years ago was not on our plates of opportunity to be able to use. So it's an exciting time and one that I think your city will see some of those things incorporated as you go forward in the next 3 to 5 years.
That's great.
So that gives you some ideas on some potential tools that could be discussed and provided as recommendations in this report. But yeah, let us know as you kind of think more in the upcoming weeks. Provide us additional comments. We'll always take those. You as the experts representing your local populace, you know the issue. So as things occur to you, just let us know. But that gives you some ideas of some of the tools that might be considered as part of the study.
Perfect. I have another question that just came on mind. The workshops that were mentioned earlier, are those going to have some sort of presentation or something where we can see maybe ahead of time so we can look at it and have any suggestions, if anything?
I think what we hope to do, and I'm speaking for the team, so I hope this is accurate. What we hope to do is to provide presentations online for people to take a look at it, either right before the meeting or after the meeting, and so that they can look at it at their convenience and provide comments to that, as well as a virtual meeting, a community meeting that would occur in real time. People can look later and watch the meeting and anytime they want, provide comments for a while. So there's some advantages to that. And again, Thelma's on the phone. Thelma's here, but we'll be able to do it where people can participate one click from their phone without having to download additional software like Zoom or WebEx or anything. So it should be as convenient as possible for us and for people to participate.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It gives me an idea of how the process is being built. So thank you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is this is Gerardo Marquez. I'm the associate planner for the city of San Fernando. Given our current, going back to the topic of trends and technology, given right now that a lot of people are working from home, do you see any trend of that continuing and how that might affect parking, especially in residential areas? I think that's a topic that was brought up in a meeting that I was in last week, and they actually talked about how, in an extreme case, people would actually move out of the city into more remote areas, given that they can now work remotely.
Right. That's kind of the you're not tethered to an office anymore, or a workplace, and you might be able to live far away and telecommute for pretty much the whole work week or the whole work week. I know a lot of people want to do that, and a lot of that could be a trend. You could see potentially offices, workplaces closing where people can work remotely. That could be a long-term trend. We know right now that the residential demand's off the map. If you did a residential survey now, you would know where the hotspots are, but the commercial areas are such low demand now, it wouldn't be very accurate. But yeah, we know residential demand is high, and that could change people's attitudes toward living in close to employment in the future. We just don't know how that's going to play out right now. That's going to be one of those long-term questions, because it's a long-term issue. Anyone else?
Tim, I don't know if you have shared with the team the one time we had a resident who had provided a what was it, like a example of how another city takes care of their parking on street sweeping days and on trash days. Do you recall that instance?
Yeah, I believe it was an example from, I want to say, the city of Inglewood. And one of the questions was, in residential areas, how do you minimize the impact of the things that have to occur in terms of city services being provided? So it was street sweeping and trash pickup. And they had gone through some effort to synchronize those two activities, so that rather than 2 times a week, parking being restricted on one side of the street or another, it was just once per week. And so that's an item that I know that internally here at the city with our public works folks, we have discussed. It hasn't gone beyond discussion at this point, but that's certainly something that could have a beneficial impact if logistically it could be solved.
Right. Yeah, that'll need to be a part of our discussions, because that's something people deal with every week, every day, and that's parking management. So that'll be part of our discussions.
That's a good issue there, Tim, because I know for our time, my side of the street is Friday, the other side is Thursday. Parking spaces become premium on either one of those nights on whichever side is open. Especially when people that live 2 blocks away come park up in your area. That's an issue, of course.
Yeah, when I lived in Pasadena, they had overnight parking restrictions from 2 to 6 in the morning. There were visitor parking permits and such, but then the street sweeper would come by at any time of night. So that was their solution. They did the street sweeping in the middle of the night, but I'm a light sleeper, so That's not for everybody.
No.
But yeah, there's different ways to deal with that. That's interesting to kind of pair those together and minimize the impact of the parking restriction plus the street sweeping, trash pickup. That's interesting.
See, we're not just staff, we also come up with creative solutions as well.
That's good. Working as a
That's
team.
funny.
Everybody talk at once.
Again, please send us your comments if you think of things after the meeting that you wish you would have said, or you think you want the project team to know. Feel free to just drop us an email. And you asked us to send you the presentation. We can do that as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
that would probably be handy. Yeah.
Chair Durham, would
Sure.
you like to move on to the next item?
I'm ready.
All right.
Staff communications.
I'm going to excuse myself. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good start.
Thanks.
All right. So I don't have any formal items tonight. So I'll just give an overview on what's been going on in the world since the last time we met. So we have, in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, I have no positive news to share with you. I've got no rainbows. I've got no gumdrops. I've got no, I've got nothing of the sort, unfortunately. So the numbers statewide, nationally, and locally continue to trend in the wrong direction. Frankly, we're still in the first wave. We haven't even gotten out, and much less any discussion about a second wave of the pandemic. The numbers are pretty sobering. So over the last couple weeks, there has been a pretty swift reclosing of different sectors of the economy. That continued as recently as earlier today. The governor announced some closing statewide, as well as some further closing in a number of the most heavily populated counties in the state that closed a number of indoor operations, including gyms, fitness centers, non-essential offices, houses of worship, things of that nature. So that was the latest. Certainly over the 4th of July weekend, beaches were closed. Indoor dining had been closed in the last couple weeks. So the numbers, however, continue to trend in the wrong direction. And, every other day at minimum, we're setting a new high nationally by almost all metrics. So, the trend that I'm seeing is that in the same sort of order of steps that we reopened the economy over the last couple months, we're doing a subsequent step back in reverse order of those same or similar steps. So I'm optimistic in the long run, but right now, frankly, we're in the thick of it. Here in San Fernando, again, the numbers were never positive here locally, and our rates of positive tests, far exceed, regional averages, far exceed national averages. That remains the case. I have seen some recent data. We have enough data at this point that indicates that Latinos are twice as likely than other populations of testing positive, contracting the coronavirus. Certainly in San Fernando, with our demographics of 93% Latino, that's one you know, one indicator why San Fernando has been hit so hard by this pandemic. Within the city of San Fernando itself, we had reopened City Hall approximately a month ago, limited days in the afternoons. Last week, due to some employees within the city family testing positive coronavirus, we closed early one day. Earlier today, because as a result of the governor's announcement, we reclosed City Hall late this afternoon to a future time to be determined at this point. So we have indefinitely reclosed City Hall to the public at this point. That's all the doom and gloom I have at the moment. If you're asking me any specific questions, I'm happy to share any further doom and gloom.
Are our fatality numbers still staying fairly constant? Are they increasing as numbers do?
I think they're still relatively in line with where we were at, you know, before, say, prior to July. However, those numbers were not good anyway. So it's still not trending in the right direction, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Any other questions for Tim, guys?
No questions for me.
Thank you.
All right, then we're proceeding then to commissioner comments. Anything you guys want to add to this evening's session?
No comment.
Okay. Well, do we have any reason to not adjourn at this point? Okay, then if that's the case, I would accept the motion for adjournment.
I motion.
Ivan, second.
I'll second it.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, I will say the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be safe.
Thank you all. And I just a quick announcement. So I was obviously very optimistic that, frankly, by today we might have an opportunity to meet in person. I know that was wishful thinking, and certainly by August I was very hopeful we would be able to, based on, you know,